Welcome to this session. Oopsies, this isn't expected. Welcome to the session, making your test containers experience smoother. We're at JCon. I'm the very first time here, JCon, and I have to tell you that I'm very positively surprised by the community vibe of this conference. Really, I love it. So this is quickly about me. Yes, I'm available in social media. I work as a senior developer advocate for a company called Elastic. Search, analytics, AI, and stuff. This is also who I am. I mean, if I were to wear the labels, I would like given all the like recognitions. This is also me. When I have time, I write something for you, so we can read it when you have time. And my blog page is called softwaregarden.dev, as I predominantly entitle myself as being software gardener. The question is, who are you, lovely people? Who's a developer? Okay, who's a Java developer? Okay, any non-Java developers? A few, okay. Are there any people who aren't developers? Testers, QA people, managers? Okay, there are a few. Now, I have to go there. Who's using Java 22 in production? I mean, some people are laughing. Come on, this is the latest version. What do you mean? 21? Decent. 17? Production, yes. 11? 8? Let's not go deeper, okay. Who prefers voting with left hand and right hand? There we go. We know each other. Nice to meet you. A little warning before we dive deeper into this presentation. First, it's on you. I mean, don't believe talking heads, especially if you see this being recorded. Don't believe like things you see on the internet just like that. Give yourself like some time to verify. The other thing, when you are stressed, you can make some funny mistakes, right? And I'm stressed, so I can make funny mistakes. I'm just a human. And last but not least, today's presentation is going to be about CIs, pipelines, builds, and so on. And as you know, these sometimes fail. So the chances are the demo goats won't be with us. And for this, just to make sure we're running this as a proper experiment, a little bit health and safety. Yeah, mein Laborkittel. Okay, yes, let's run it properly. Oopsies, and now one more thing. Like, I'm not going to expel anyone from this room, but if you came here because you saw test containers, right, in the title, this is not test containers entry session. This session assumes that you already know something about test containers, you have some experience with test containers, right, maybe not that good, and that's why you came here to see what could be improved, right? So if you don't know anything about test containers, like, of course, you can stay with us, but just please be aware that this is not 101 session or intro session, right? If you're looking for intro session, there's another one of mine. Integration tests are needed and simple, and then in this talk, this other talk, I explain the cornerstones, like how do you begin with, what's the meaning of this and that, and so on. Here, we assume we already know something about these containers. Last thing before I forget, sorry, see, there are many things I cannot forget. I have stickers. I have Elastic stickers. I have test container stickers for you. So please come and help yourself with the stickers after the talk. If you happen to have some questions, no internet. Okay. Oh, there is internet. Suddenly there is internet. This was for Elias, who has the this is the room, right? Yes. So you can go for Cinema 6 if you have any questions, but you can also as well shout questions at me anytime. And I kind of like it that this order, right? Or this is like became like a testing mini series in this very room. All right. Test containers, right? It's the library that gathered us here, and there are forks of this library for many languages. So today, of course, I will be covering test containers for Java, but there are also others, and I mean, many of these steps or hints apply for the other technologies as well, but not all of them, right? There's of course testcontainers.org if you need to go for like deepen your knowledge. Like who has this lovely friend from Spain called Manuel? Always be friends with Manuel, right? Read it before you run something. Remember, like 1 hour of reading can save you a few days of coding. Test containers is not magic. It may feel like this because you have your tests and your tests have like proper real dependencies, right? But it happens thanks to this giant, right? And this giant might be scary if you don't know how to interact with this giant. So it's not scary as this big spider. It's called Docker, right? So test containers from certain point of view may just look as a wrapper or like the communication gateway for Docker. So instead of going with Docker Compose or like running some bash scripts using Docker, what you can do is basically use it from your own language. And now I have to look really, really smart because this gentleman is taking pictures, so I can't look silly. Look there, okay, this profile. Thank you. Okay, yes. Everyone got excited. When everyone gets excited. So you had some issues, right? Maybe your mocks weren't working, or maybe you were kicked hard by certain migrations, and you brought test containers to your team, to your organization, right? And everyone got excited because finally we can test our stuff against the real data. Maybe in this real data, like real dependencies, maybe we can even put the real data, of course obfuscated and whatnot, but it's like as real as it can be, right? And we can run it not only CI, but also on our machines. The thing is, yeah, and even more, yes, it's this kind of vibe, right? So people say we don't have integration tests, or worse, I've heard like worse stories. We had integration tests, but we disabled them because they were slow as molasses, right? I'm not here to tell you that they will be faster than, let's say, only like in-memory tests or like tests without real dependencies. It's not going to happen, but I hope to show you that they can be, I mean, the runtime can be improved. I mean, how long they last, and also, therefore, that our credit cards won't be charged that much, right? And who do we blame for this situation? Of course, it's we always shoot the messenger, right? Not the source, and here the case it's test containers, right? That's to be blamed because it's absolutely for sure not the people who are using test containers or Docker this way or another, right? And maybe we should change this. So let's check out one project which is absolutely disgusting. And now how do I switch it? I'm not a sophisticated Mac user. So this is the production code, as you can see. But we are not here for the production code. So we're not going to test for like the actual production code. This is just a placeholder. What we're gonna see here is the tests, right? So I do happen to have some tests, and how are these tests integrated? So, sorry, integrated, like done. I have some, I call them unit tests sometimes, right? So we are not just asserting anything here. It's just the, let's say we could have like mocks, whatever, and these are just tests without dependencies, right? I have a bunch of them, and then I have tests like integration tests, which are doing the following thing. I have two dependencies. I have MySQL and Elasticsearch, right? And I'm checking if Johnny is there, right? In a table or in an index. So how does it work for MySQL? Yes, as you can see, we can check if John is here. John is quite like, or can be quite scary, right? Anyway, here is the database container, right? Oopsie, sorry, I messed up. Yes, so this is, yeah, or maybe you can start from here. So this is like the common theme, how people start using test containers. So they create a common base class, right? We are going to use this MySQL version and this Elasticsearch version. Notice those, you can use Elasticsearch not from Docker Hub, right? Which is nice for like quotas and whatnot. And then we have two containers. We have MySQL container and we have Elasticsearch container. And this is needed for creating client for Elasticsearch. And we prepare this container. So I'm going to run migrations, right? So as you can see, I have Liquibase, or this could be like a Flywire or something else like this for MySQL, and I also like prepare data for Elasticsearch. So you can also like pre-populate or prime Elasticsearch with data, right? And I do it like the poor man's solution. How I'm doing this, I have here a bunch of files. Where are they? They should be here, right? In config, yes, Elasticsearch, and I have these files. These are for the mappings, right? So I define the mappings for indices. I recommend doing this instead of guessing, right? I mean, it's good for prototyping, but not good for production. So we go with mappings first, and then you can go for a bulk insert or update or upsert in general, right? So there's this format and JSON, and it's basically, this is like a meta line, and this is the actual data line, metadata line, data line, and so the story goes, right? So you can have like a big file and just go with this file. And what I do here is like I'm running curl. Because I decided, I mean, for many of these things, you could run Java client for Elasticsearch, but I decided to keep it in curl so that it's easier for other people to translate in their technologies, right? Because curl is the, if you haven't been, or CURL, right, is like also in the image of Elasticsearch, at least the official one. So I'm running this to prime Elasticsearch with data. Yes, and so then in my test, I'm checking if Johnny is here. For Elasticsearch, this is how it can look like. So one more thing before I forget. As you can see, this is all I need to start Elasticsearch container. And this is thanks to these modules. Of course, use modules, right? This is MySQL module, this is Elasticsearch module. And since version 8, I mean for 8x, by default it has security and TLS, meaning HTTPS enabled, and you don't have to disable it, right? You just easily can copy the certificate when creating the client, and this is how I can create the client. So I'm creating the basic credentials provider. Basically, this is usually like Elastic and change me, right? The default password, and this is how I create the client. So I create the REST client first, and say in this callback that I will be adding this basic authentication header. If you're using cloud, you can go for like how's it called? Key, right? And I would say key is a recommended way. If you get doing this in production code, but remember, this is absolutely disgusting. And then how you set SSL. This is the beauty of using modules, right? So the Elasticsearch module has this method called create SSL context from CA, and it will like basically fetch the auto-generated certificate and put it into the client. So the client can talk SSL or TLS, even if it's like handmade or self-signed, right? And here is how I create the client. And here is like, you might be wondering, where's the freaking JSON? Okay, so there's a number of languages you can use to query Elasticsearch, and this is the one that should go like GA soon. It's called ESQL, and as you can see, it looks quite similar to SQL, right? It's not SQL, it's ESQL. These pipes are needed, and then this is the beauty of it. Once I query it, I have results set, or I can have results set or other ways, right? And this is like plain old JDBC. So if you have an application that, for example, can utilize JDBC, you can easily plug this in. So this is for Elasticsearch, and here's Johnny for MySQL. And basically, I create the results set using the plain old query, right? And then I do the same. I just check if there's one result in this database, and then assert that it's John. So here's Johnny. So this is basically it, right? And I have, like as I have shown you, I have a number of tests, and I'm checking if John is here for MySQL. For Elasticsearch, I start both containers with real dependencies, and I'm printing it like integration test A1 because I have a few. And when I run all of these tests using, where is it? README, I pre-recorded the, I'm not gonna run everything here because it would have taken us too much time. Basically, I go Maven test, right? And when we run the Maven test, we can say it took only 4 minutes. It's not that bad, right? The thing is, it failed. And it failed because we had just one failed, and it seems that nobody expects Spanish Inquisition. And it happened, as you can see, in test F2. So let's go for test F2. Yes. Nobody expects Spanish Inquisition. It's in here, right? The thing is, as you can see, it's one of these fast tests, or I call them unit tests, right? And the first thing that we should do, I kindly suggest you, is that we separate these tests logically. We don't have to keep two repositories. We don't even have to keep them in like two projects or two modules, although I would recommend you doing so. As you can see, I have all of them in single directory in here, right? The thing is, I would suggest we run them separately and use these fast tests as fast detection network. So only if these tests pass, I start integration tests, right? Because now we would need to pay, let's say you have Cloud CI, we would need to pay for 4 minutes of test. I don't mention like compile, fetching the images and stuff like this. These are other steps which can be optimized as well, right? So we would have wasted 4 minutes, right, and pay for it and generate CO2 and whatnot, only to figure out that this is like caused by Spanish Inquisition. So first thing, of course, we have to fix this test, and the other thing we have to do is to logically separate how these tests are running. So this was task number 1, run slow tests only after the fast tests pass, right? And after I, let me check out maybe this thing already, and how basically you can do that. Apart from the things I've mentioned, like let me say, like physical separation, there's also another way this could be done, and it's basically something like this, right? Maybe I should go, just let's skip the preview, right? See, this is how I can use or run tests that are not integration tests, and only after they are successful, I'll run the integration tests. How do you achieve this in your project? It's up to you, right? But this is what logically I would suggest happens in your project. People go for fail-safe versus surefire and whatnot, right? There are different techniques, different ways. Whatever works for you and your team is okay. Just please separate these tests, right? Fast tests, and only after they pass, go for the slow tests, because these tests, like it or not, are going to be slower. But the thing is, let me go here, and let's go for less rf logs, and that was answer 2, I guess. Sorry, no, answer 1. I have to go for to get the previous one. Yes. So I fixed the test, right, and run only the second thing. It's just it's still running well over 3 minutes in this approach, right? And now we'll be focusing only on this integration test. How can we squeeze this fruit to get the juice we need in much shorter time, right? And therefore maybe using less resources, but that's like debatable. If you go and take a look at the how it runs, you see I've separated the tests, right? It's when you scroll it, you see, of course, this is like checking libraries, checking if the Docker environment is there, right? You see, maybe I should go for started, right? So see, container is started, right? And then it's starting the MySQL one, and here it is the same, and here it happens again and again and again and again, right? Basically, what we do with this default approach, we keep starting and like restarting the containers. And why is this? Anyone? If you take a look in here, why do we keep restarting them? Yep. I have jellies from Poland for good answers. The thing is, like, quite similar what we do with object-oriented programming in Java, right? If the field is not static, right, it's going to happen for every instance of the test every time the test is run. This is it's not a bug, it's a feature. This is like, I mean, the library of test containers assumes that if you don't have static here, you want the containers to be restarted before each and individual test case, right? But maybe it's not what you want. Like if you had manual tests, and this is the mindset you should in general have. Let's say you have this list for tests to run as a manual tester, right? Would you restart the container or the database every time before each and every test just to make sure the database is clean? Not really, no. I see people going like this way, right? Exactly, this is the point, right? If it doesn't make sense if you run these tests manually, then it doesn't make sense if you automate it as well. This is the point, the whole point of this talk. Just automate the good steps, right? Or the good approaches. So what we have to do here is just a simple thing to do is like, let me check it out. Yes, and let's go for this base integration test. See, these are static now, right? What does it mean? That now we will start these containers only once per test class that inherits from this base integration test. Okay, and now if I go for answer 2, so answer after I applied this approach, you see we went down from 3.5 minutes to 1 minute 17. One more thing, I'm running the tests on this, or I run them on this machine. This is not exactly CI machine, this is not Linux machine, right? And it's RAM and whatnot. So the hints I'm going to show you, or the advices, to a certain degree they work always, and then they depend on your test cases, how your project looks like, what's the hardware, what are the resources, and so on. So after we're done with all of this, please don't do all of them, right? But only the ones that make sense for you, because we every time sacrifice a little bit of like how the tests look like. I mean, how clean the code is, how easy it is to read and digest. Was there a question? I made it what? For every test case that like this test A, B, and so on. Yes, that's the case. Which means, and that brings us to another thing. Now it's because I'm not restarting the container every time, I need to make sure that the state of the database or the indices in the Elasticsearch is correct, right? So now I have to go before each. I'm dropping the database, right, and running the or deleting the indices, and then I'm running the migrations again. Okay, so this is the before each. So after this, before each ends, I have the state of the thing clean and ready. And this is one of the approaches. There are many approaches. You can go and create like say for a stored procedure and just call this stored procedure, right? You can create a new schema in a SQL database, whatever. Just make sure you don't restart the container and you bring it to a proper state on your own, right? So that was step number 2, or task number 2. Task number 3 is, do we really have to start the containers one by one? Because if you take a look, if we have taken a look in this log, it would be this. MySQL starting, let's say 7 seconds, and after it's done, Elasticsearch starting for another 7 seconds, right? And I have what, like 12 cores in this machine. So for sure I can run or can start both containers at the same time, right? So here it is how we can do this. I'm checking out this thing, and this is a nice change since I believe 1.18 of test containers. I'm adding this parallel true, which means now the containers will be started in parallel. Okay, so let's go and see how this change impacts the startup time, and that is we shaved quite a few seconds again. So instead of like doing this like the stairs mode, right? There's a big jump when they're all running the same time. Let's go for starting, if I can find this previous, maybe here. Where can I see this? I just wanted to show that in a log, but maybe we can skip this. Basically, now what I wanted to show is that now the logs. Oh, here it is. All right. See, so it's Elasticsearch starting, then it's MySQL starting. I mean, all the startup of the containers is happening at the same time in parallel, right? So if you have enough silicon and these containers aren't depending one on another, you can start them in parallel. Easy peasy. Right, and the same like restart techniques and like cleaning the database and whatnot apply. There's no change here. So what's the next thing? What's the next thing we can do? And is, aren't we starting these containers too often? Because I'm starting them still for every test case. I'm starting them for where is this? I have 4 classes inheriting from this one, and because the field is static, I'm starting these containers for every class. Doesn't make sense. I mean, makes sense, but we can do it better. Maybe we can just start them once globally, right? And then, for example, after test A is done, it's not cleaning the containers, but the test B is happily using them for its own test cases. And so the story goes, right? And there's a nice idiom for this. Let me check this out again. Check out revision. Yo.
You showed that the test containers have the parallel feature.
Uh-huh.
There's also the feature that you have dependent test containers. I think it's root or something like that.
Yeah.
Is it extracting these that are dependent on each other from the parallel start, or will each and every container started to be in parallel if I take the parallel notation?
I don't know about the annotation, but as far as I remember, this is what happens here in deep start. And this is the answer, like we could even improve and go further. Thank you very much for this question here, the jellies. Yes. This is an important, like the order of bringing the dependencies, sometimes it matters, right? So, and as far as I remember, I'm not sure about the annotation. I would need to check it. Although I would assume it's the case, right? But as far as I remember, this is how it works for deep start. So when I have these 2 containers, they aren't depending on each other. And now you see I put that in a static block, right? And because like how Java works, because all these other 4 classes are inheriting from this class, it means that this class will be statically initialized first, which means that these containers will be brought up before anything else happens. And I will be doing this only once per runtime. Okay, so again, instead of starting, let's say, MySQL 4 times and Elasticsearch 4 times, even in parallel, I would just start them once. This is I don't know how this idiom is called, but it's like a very nice idiom, which I think should be like, you should reach this step with your test cases, right? And if I go and let's see how this code behaved then, and it was then, we went down to 30 seconds. You see? And mind you, I didn't change the tests. I'm just changing the way I'm bringing up the dependencies for the test, right? This is how it works. So let's go further. Task number 5 is, do we really need to run the DB migrations before every test? It really depends on the size of your migration set, but it can be really, really long. Right? So what can we do instead? And it's like, it also depends on the technology you're using, and how it works and so on. We can do this. We can, meine liebe Freunde, run the migrations, right? Put the data there, and then what we do is we here and here take a snapshot. Because what happens with these migrations, especially if you have this setup when your Docker containers are running somewhere else, not at the same machine, and there's network involved. So you're running the migrations over and over this thin wire again and again, right? Maybe it doesn't make much sense. Maybe we could do the following. Run the migrations once, snapshot the state of the database, and then restore the snapshot before every test from there. Just send a little signal, hey, restore yourself. This could be like a store procedure, this could be like a curl call, whatever. This is it. Just don't send over and over the data over the network, right? The network isn't for free. So yeah, this is the approach. And how did it improve? It might have not improved much. Oh, there's still some improvement. See? And what do I have as migrations? Let me like show you this. Resources, config. As you can see, the liquid-based thingy is really like, I have what? 3 migrations and 4 files for Elasticsearch. It's really tiny. If you have 50 changes in your changelog, the impact, it will be even bigger, right? So again, start the containers runs once, run the migrations only once, right? And this is like, instead of doing things many times, this is a recurring theme. Do them only once, okay? Because it doesn't make sense to run the same thing over and over if it can be done only one time. Another task is, maybe we should have started this whole thing in a total different manner. What should we have done in the beginning before we started this journey with these steps and improvements? Maybe we should have started this as the scientists do, right? So they put lab codes, and then they establish the baseline. So we should have not just measured the time, but like capture how the tests are actually running, right? And then when we do a thing, we measure the impact, right? If it's, is it better? How much is it better? Because if it's just better, let's say by 20%, it's okay. But if it's 2%, maybe we skip this. Maybe it's not an improvement. Maybe it's just a statistical error, right? Maybe it doesn't work for us. So what we can do is we can use just a simple thing, which is, and now we have to go to POM, JFR, Java Flight Recorder, if you haven't been using it. And see here, when I'm running tests, am I in a good place? I hope so. It's just I can't find this. Oh, come on. I didn't check out. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. Richtig. Danke. Who was that? I won't throw it that far away, okay? I can throw exceptions that far away, but not jellies. Please come for them. Yes. Dank dir. Okay, so this is it. And see, this is what I'm doing. I'm starting flight recording. You can profile not only your production code, you can profile only also your test code. Okay? This is it. And I'm recording in this to recording JFR. And also, if you don't know about this, there is a nice extension to JUnit. And it's this one. No, not this one, the last one. JUnit platform JFR. So it will emit to this JFR recording the events or from the JUnit, right? From Jupyter. And then you can analyze this recording, this one, right? And this is how the CPU was used during this, like the whole flight of this test, right? And you know, it's think about reading charts or diagrams. So what do you say is the dominant color of this chart? Exactly, it's the lack of color, right? I'm using the white theme, that's why it's white. It would normally, I mean, the other ways it would be like different. But this is the color, right? And so this is the CPU we're wasting. We're paying for this, but we're using only this, right? So the whole idea is to squeeze it. Okay, so then the usage goes there, and we're paying for the squeeze time. And also, just to show you, if you go for these events, where are they? They're here. See, we can go for. Oh, come on. Now, I mean, I have smaller screen now, so it's difficult. You see, I have these execution tests, and now you can see you don't need like a play with the XML files or whatever. You can see here, like for example, this test took me 248 milliseconds, and so on and so on. So we can record this, right? And then you can just like download these files, for example, from your cloud CIs. So I recommend, and maybe this is something we should have started with, right? So, okay, we now have this knowledge that there is like lack of color of the CPU. Okay, and it's always like this. Right? So now we're gonna do something about this lovely Mrs. CPU. Okay, not this one, sorry. And what we can do is a simple, like quite simple thing, right? Let me check this out. And the thing we'll be doing is written here in README. You can just increase the number of forks. And here I use 2 because 2 works for this test suite and this machine. For your test suite, for your machine, there might be a different magic number of forks. Okay, it might be 3, it might be 4, right? Maybe even 5. I don't know. It depends also how they compare to each other, how they can be parallelized, and so on and so on. Because, of course, like we shrink it like this, but this, for example, means that the containers for each fork will start longer because there will be like a race for CPU, basically congestion, right? Anyway, when I go that way, as you can see, when I go here for processes, now I have way more orange, right, than no color. So we have basically, this is like you have to play and observe the system and see how much you can squeeze it, right? For example, it also comes with the price per minute for your CI, right? Maybe you can go for a bigger machine and squeeze it even more, and the bigger machine is not going to be as much expensive, right? It really depends on your case. But please keep it in mind that you can parallelize stuff. Like make it run in parallel, like meaning like the forks, not just like the test. So in this case, it's usually happens that usually happens that 2 of them, let's say test A and B, are running in one fork, and C and D are running in the other fork, and each fork gets this its own set of the containers, right? So eventually, I'll be having at the same time 2 MySQL instances and 2 Elasticsearch instances. The next task is we squeeze the CPU, right? Can we squeeze the storage somehow? And I would say up to this step with forks, this should be like maybe not even this forks, like even before forks, this is something you should be doing, or I would say it's pretty safe to work for you no matter what test cases you have. But now we're entering the realm when we are getting into more fine tuning. Right, so what we can do after we squeezed a lot from CPU, we can maybe go for something like this. Even if you have SSDs or NVMs or whatever it's called, they are not as fast as RAM. And the whole trick, I mean, translating this into plain English means if I'm running this on a container, this means that this directory will be mapped into a RAM disk. Okay, don't quote me on this, it's not technically accurate, but this is how we can start thinking about this step. So now when I go to these base integration tests, this is how you can see I'm configuring them and where I'm configuring them. Come on, here, see? You can guard it with, like, for example, you do this only on CI machines, for example, not in like a developer's machine or whatever, but this is how we do that. Right? We say this directory, I want to keep it in RAM. You don't do that for production, because if things go wrong, you lose the data. But this is tests, right? We don't care about if this data will be available tomorrow. We just need the tests to pass, right? So that was task number 8. So let's look for answer 8. And with that, we went to 21 seconds, right? Not bad, but it's like not a huge improvement. But with the forks and everything, it depends. But yeah, it's still an improvement. So the next one is the next. Do we have to run any migrations at all? And that's the point. Like, there are 2 big problems in IT, in computer science in general, right? Cache invalidation, naming things, and off-by-one errors, right? And now we can maybe cache the thing. So if we made a snapshot in the container, maybe we can copy it back and then instead of running these migrations, just copy the snapshot back to the machine, right? It's not an easy technique, I would say. It's not always worth it. It depends, like if you have huge set of migrations, it makes sense. If your migrations are tiny, not that much. Another approach is, for example, after your tests passed with this, you can, for example, create a Docker image with this. But then you need to keep it in a repository. So again, it has to be worth the effort and the hassle, right? But yes, this can be done. And how can it be done is, sorry, base integration test. Why am I not switching? What am I doing wrong? Now it is there. Sorry, I'm kind of like, yeah. This is what I have here. So basically, after the tests, or like even after I run the migrations, I can copy the snapshots into this cache back for MySQL and for Elasticsearch. And then when I start the containers in here, I can copy these files over there. Right, so I see this is the when I'm going to copy this. TMP is backup location, but this is what I will be doing, at least in case of this MySQL. See, I'm copying this file and then I'm running it instead of running the migrations. So this is what I can do. And the last step I'm showing here is like maybe we can reuse more just DB snapshot. And there's a feature. It's kind of like it can be dangerous, but if you like know what you're doing, it can be done. So what we can do basically is we can reuse the containers. So as you can see, I have no containers running, and let's try to run the whole thing at least once. So let me check out the last step here. Checkout, right? And now let's try to come on, Maven. Yes, with 2 forks. Let's try to run these. So they're running. The tests are running. Hopefully they will pass. We shall see. Yeah, as you can see, 2 MySQL instances are starting. One for fork A, one for fork B, or first fork and a second fork, whatever we call them. It was started. Now it's starting Elasticsearch. The tests are passing. Very nice. Yeah, and we have 22 seconds. It's just because I have said here with reuse, okay, and in my where is it? In here in my Testcontainers properties. Oopsies. How do I do in this keyboard? Vim, and now it should be the sorry, this thing. Test, or does it start with dot Testcontainers properties? Yes, I have this because this is like opt-in feature. I may want to have it on my developer machine, but I may not want to have it on my CI machine. But what does it do? As you can see, now the images weren't like destroyed after the whole test suite. So when I run this thing again, the containers aren't started because I kept them running, right, like in a bad American gangster movie, and therefore the whole test suite is taking us 5 seconds. Yeah, so you're like, whoa. Let me let's wait with this question a little bit, okay? Because I'm running out of time. Yes, so it's 5 seconds, and not only that, because this is like a live project. We started with 3 test cases per each test, right? Just 3. But in the meantime, I added more. I smuggled them in this Git checkouts. You haven't noticed this, but this is what happens in a real project, right? So as you can see, we don't have 3 test cases, but 9 test cases in every test class, right? And we went down from 4 minutes even into like 5 seconds. So as you can see, yeah, Wahnsinn, doable. It's doable. It just depends like how much. Thank you very much. How much you can go with this. So let's just recap because I'm running out of time. Doing things once is better than doing them all the time. Okay, and if you're not into a meme culture, I have this very nice scientific notation for you. Okay, just do the darn thing once instead of repeating it over and over again. Don't restart the containers. Don't run the migrations over and over again. Right? Just go with this mindset. How to improve things in general when running test containers? Split fast and slow tests. Right? Logically during runtime or whatever works for you. Measure, improve, and measure again. And if the measurement shows it's a significant improvement, keep it. If it shows it did improve things or improve just a little, drop it. Okay? Wear scientific hat. Okay? Avoid unnecessary work. And this goes well with this thing. Don't do once, not again and again. It's not necessary to restart the containers. It's not necessary to run the migrations again. Just do this once, okay? Or skip this altogether if you can. Parallelize to the max, okay? As much as you can go with your CPU, storage, and RAM, parallelize these tests. They should not depend on each other. If they depend on each other and you cannot parallelize them because of this, you have bad tests. Simple as that. Handful of pro tips: use modules, right? Don't use generic container, use modules as I have shown you. There's a nice integration with Quarkus, Micron, that's Spring. If you happen to be using one of them, go for this. Don't fix ports. I ask you, don't fix ports. Start once in parallel. And this is, like, if I'm not mistaken, linked to my blog post. Even it shows you like how can you go further and prefetch images and so on. Maybe you can reuse, right, on certain machines. For developer machines, yes. For CI, I would say not so much. And avoid network round trips in before each, right? Or just make a small network signal. Don't send data over the wire over and over again. Okay. Not just for this talk, not just for this conference. Please provide feedback for everyone. I can accept feedback in any form, but I would love you to ask. I would love to ask you to go for this. This is an anonymous form. You can let me know what was okay, what wasn't okay, and while you're taking picture of this, I will take picture with you, lovely people. I hope you don't mind. How do you say that in German? Käse. Okay, thank you. If you need to follow me in social media due to whatever obscure reason, you can do this. And this is the slide, the code for everything. This is the link for the slides, for the code, and so on. Ja, ich freue mich, dass ich heute hier gesprochen konnte. Das ist alles von mir. Ich bedanke mich.